And we're live.
Hello, YouTube. Jay alongside Christopher, back with you again for the second part of our doubleheader, if not more. We'll don't know yet. This time we are re-recording the best of the all-time team for the San Diego Superchargers. If you have not watched one of our all-time videos before, what we're going to be doing is putting together an all-time team.
Say what?
It's going to be 11 on the offense, 11 on the defense. What are we looking at on the offensive side?
Well, on the offense, we will be choosing one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, one tight end. That's going to be difficult here. And four from what we call the alternate offense, Alt-O, which can be any position on the offense, including kick returners and kickers.
And over on the defensive side, we are going to be taking two defensive linemen, three linebackers, four defensive backs, and two Alt-D. That's all the defensive positions, including punters.
We just took a punter for the Washington Commanders. All right, I'm sorry.
Two in a row. No, we
Let's
won't.
No. But that's right. And as per usual, nope, I'm getting ahead of myself. And we tier these I'm struggling.
Let's start that for a third time. Zunk, what are we doing with the tier system?
As usual with our vids, we tier these players off into three different tiers based on color. And for the San Diego Chargers, we're going to be doing yellow for the bottom tier, baby blue for the mid tier, and the dark Charger blue for the top tier. I'm sorry, I did that wrong.
Yeah.
Let's start a fourth time.
Let's do it for a fourth. You want me to take this route?
Go for it.
All right, we're going to be tearing things off to make things a little bit easier for us. We're going to have three tiers: a bottom tier yellow, a mid tier of the dark Charger blue, and a top tier of the powder blues. Before we get into each position, though, we have a face of the franchise.
That we do, and there's a few different really good options for the Chargers, but I feel like it's really down to two.
Well, one, we have who I'd argue to be the best quarterback of all time here with the Chargers.
Yep.
But not within his Charger career. He doesn't get it. Then we have two that I would argue is the best at their position that did spend their career with the Chargers. It's got to be either Gates or Tomlinson.
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
I think we're missing one.
Who?
Look at that LB position.
What are you saying, Junior Seau?
I think he's in that conversation.
I do too. One of the most loved players in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
It's an insane Hall of Fame career there. Where he falls behind for me, though, is he's not the number one for his position. But that's not what the face of the franchise is about, though.
It is not. It is when you think Chargers, who's that first name you think of? Who's that guy that's representative of everything Charger? It's hard not to say that's Junior Seau. But we have LaDainian Tomlinson. I think that was my two, quite frankly.
This one is really hard for me because this is my team.
Yes.
So with that, I think my opinion both needs to be thrown out and also carries more weight at the same time, which is just fucking weird. So I don't know who you're thinking. Give me your thoughts on where you're at, but for me, it's LT.
LT's a good choice. Like you said, one of the best running backs of all time. Synonymous with the Chargers, really helped lead a turnaround of a moribund franchise for a long time. He played with Junior Seau for a very short, limited time. I think when we did this, I was torn at the time. I'm a huge fan of Junior Seau. it would be hard for me not to give him face of the franchise, but LT was just he and Marshall Faulk changed the game when it came to running backs, and it's hard if he says LT, I can't argue that.
And again, the main thing there is, while I love Junior Seau, Antonio Gates is the best tight end to play at the best tight end ever. I will argue LT is the best halfback ever. The biggest difference there is I'm not going to give a face of the franchise to a tight end over a running back or a linebacker.
Yeah.
So if I had to put those three in order, it would be LT, Junior Seau, then Antonio Gates.
So LaDainian Tomlinson, pretty good choice for San Diego Charger, face of the franchise. Yeah, yes, I'm gonna say San Diego because it's stupid they're in Los Angeles. I know the top says Los Angeles because I have to be factual with this stupid shit, but pisses me off. I'm not even a Chargers fan.
It's San Diego. Fuck you, LA.
Yeah, you know what? I'm changing the text now, damn it. I mean, I'm going to be overwriting it with our own graphics eventually in the edit, but whatever.
Well, then we're getting enough into the quarterback to start off with. We have Drew Brees, Dan Fouts, John Adel, Justin Herbert, Stan Humphries, and Philip Rivers. A little bit there when we got into face of the franchise players into consideration. The best quarterback of all time is Drew Brees. He has all the passing records. He's just phenomenal. I know there's like 5-6 guys that you can throw into that and have a conversation with, and 5 different answers. You're all correct. But Drew Brees for me is the best. But he didn't get it done in San Diego.
You know, I always want,
and I hate. Like, would he have had that career? Probably not. They found the right mesh with their head coach, their offensive coordinator, and quarterback, all on the same page. And I don't. It's hard to say he would have. You can't say he wouldn't have, but it's hard to go, oh, yeah, he would have had that in San Diego. I can't make that claim. So he's here.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more anecdotal stuff for Drew Brees. You know, his final season, he was still the starter over second-year quarterback at that point, Philip Rivers. And if you remember or know, that final game, he suffered a nasty arm injury, a shoulder injury, and that was part of the reason why San Diego felt like they could move on. They weren't sure. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why he didn't sign with the Miami Dolphins, the Nick Saban-led Miami Dolphins. That's fucking weird. Because the Dolphins didn't trust his shoulder. He went to New Orleans. And as they say, the rest is history. He turned into one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't quite have him at number 1, but there's a great argument to be had that he's number 1.
Yeah.
Can't wait till that's in the video. But next up, another Hall of Fame quarterback. Gets a bit overlooked nowadays, but it's a damn shame. Dan Fouts, one of the originators of the just pure air raid offense of the NFL. They just threw the ball all over the place. 254 touchdowns. What holds him back? 242 interceptions. But he did make 6 Pro Bowls, 2 first-time All-Pros, 43,000 yards passing. The dude was a beast in his heyday.
Yeah, top tier.
Mid-tier. Oh, yeah, top tier. Sorry. I get the tiers confused. He's top tier.
Those powder blues are buttes. Come on.
I know. I know. I don't know why I'm screwing up.
Speaking of getting overlooked, we got John Adel here. Damn good quarterback. Damn good. He's bottom tier.
Yeah, bottom tier. More interceptions than touchdowns, which is a part of it, and in an era where you could start kind of like, you gotta stop doing that. But yeah, great quarterback. Modern quarterback, I put him on this list. Justin Herbert. Obviously, he's still really good in year 3. His stats aren't shown with our graphics here live, but I'm going to update them on the edit like I do. He's on his way to a legendary career already. He's a hell of a quarterback. I would almost make the case that he could be a mid-tier currently, but we do have him at bottom tier.
He started in 2020. It's just not long enough, and the Chargers they're good, but man, they're overlooked so much in the league.
And they screw themselves. They shoot themselves in the foot so much, and they hasn't made the playoffs yet. That's fair.
Stan Humphries. It's again perfectly fine quarterback, good quarterback, but shit, he falls so far behind these other names. Bottom tier.
He does, but he has one thing that none of the others have with the San Diego Chargers. I shall stress: a Super Bowl appearance with the Chargers. He was their starting quarterback. They got crushed in that game, but we won't talk about it. And finally,
Sorry, I hit the wrong one. Philip Rivers.
No, you smacked me in the face for that. Philip Rivers. Outside having 47 kids, he also had an amazing career with the Chargers. Almost 60,000 passing yards, almost 400 touchdowns. He's a legendary QB, and you can see what Jay thinks about him. But he's a top tier guy. 8 Pro Bowls. He was great.
Yeah, and I'm swearing all the way through this, putting him up on the team above Dan Fouts.
That wasn't a glitch, ladies and gentlemen. He was just that mad. Jay, as he mentioned with the Drew Brees, has hated Philip Rivers only because they got rid of Drew Brees. And, fair.
And as much as he keeps the team in and wins games for him, he loses them just as much.
He did. But, as we mentioned, our quarterback for the San Diego Chargers with all these players ends up being Philip Rivers.
With Fouts going over to the Alto. What are we looking at with the running backs?
With the running backs, we are looking at Marion Butts.
Is that 2 butts in a row? 2 videos with butts in a row?
2 videos with butts in a row. Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon, Paul Lowe, Ryan Matthews, Natron Means, and of course, LaDainian Tomlinson.
You want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Marion Butts played in the early 90s, basically. Had a fine career. He was an okay guy. Didn't do much in the passing game. 31 TDs in 76 games on the ground. 2 Pro Bowls, but he's a bottom tier.
Austin Eckler here. When we put this together, 4 years ago?
Feels like it.
We put him at a mid-tier. Now, here's the player that you were talking about, Justin Herbert possibly getting a bump up. Eckler, for me, is almost getting a bump up.
I think that's fair. I think he would take over the number 2 spot potentially too, because this last year he had 20 rushing touchdowns or 20 total TDs. This year he's already up to 10 in half a season. The dude scores touchdowns. He's a small back, admittedly, so he's not great on the ground, but he's a hell of a receiving back. He's dynamite.
Yeah. So we haven't gone through and we haven't changed any on these retapings yet. But we haven't had any opportunities with the one other team with Washington of current players.
It's true.
Now we're looking at already 2 here with the Chargers. Are we updating this? Do we want to bump him up? If we don't bump him up a tier, I have him bumped up over our next name, which.
I think we have to bump him up tier. I'm hesitant to bump anybody up or down or anything unless there's like bad reasons. But because of our future video with tier rankings, but yeah, I mean it's hard to argue he's not a top tier.
Well, you still haven't talked about the next guy though.
Oh, sorry. Well, speaking of that next guy, Melvin Gordon, 5 years, also played with Austin Eckler, had made 2 Pro Bowls, a really good running back, 36 touchdowns on the ground, 11 through the air. He actually, you don't think of Wisconsin running backs as receiving backs. A lot of them come in the league and actually are pretty good at receiving. Not that he's not Austin Eckler, but he was pretty solid, 20 yards per game. 47 total TDs in only 67 games. He was a mid-tier, and he was our number 2 at one point.
Paul Lowe. Low. So low he's on the bottom tier. From 60 to 68, had a really good career. His 2 Pro Bowls, 2 first teams on there. He just doesn't have name recognition for an era that you have to have it as a halfback.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's unfortunate. Next up, Ryan Matthews. Here's a guy, when he was on the field, was a really good running back.
I know, just going off of the name and remembering, I'm like, man, he's got to be higher than a bottom tier.
But unfortunately, he has struggled staying on the field so much. 5 years, only 60 games. That's only 12 per year. That means he missed an average of 4, only made 1 Pro Bowl. When he was on the field, he was really good, averaging almost 90 yards per game. I mean, he was really good, but you got to stay on the field, bottom tier.
Natron means big. He earned that last name.
Yeah, he did.
Just a heavy back. He had 2 stints with the Chargers, 93 to 95, and then again from 98 to 99. Not a long tenure at 59 games, but that name just rings out Chargers. That's a good year.
And he also rings out Jaguars, because I remember him back in the day. One of my first favorite players from the team, along with Jimmy Smith and Mark Brunell. Then became Fred Taylor, and he was really good. I was a big fan of Natron Means, still love him to this day. And finally, we talked about Mariah, our face of the franchise, one of the best running backs ever. But Danian Thompson, top tier. I don't know what more can say other than he's... My cat just knocked shit over. But beyond that, he's a great running back.
120 yards per game. And you know what? He did more than get yards? He got touchdowns.
I think he's still the all-time leader for touchdowns in a season, which I think he hit like 30 combined, which is crazy.
He's just an insane back who had power, who had mobility, who could find the holes, he could block, revolutionized in the receiving back game. Best halfback all time. Number 1 halfback here, and we just switched out Melvin Gordon for Austin Ekeler.
That's true. Which would make... Does Austin Ekeler... I don't think it does, but Austin Ekeler's a better name, better player than Melvin Gordon. I don't think that adjusts their tier ranking on offense, because those 3 in front of them are really good.
Like, you know why it's not going to adjust their tier ranking?
Because we already made the video?
You want to know why we're not going to re-record the video?
Because we don't want to record a video?
Because Austin Ekeler already made the team on the All-O. Now I have to go over and put Melvin Gordon in his place on the All-O.
Oh, my God. Didn't think this one through, now did we?
No, I knew it when I did it.
Oh, you dick. I didn't, because I hadn't looked ahead yet. Hello. But yes, our running backs end up being LaDainian Tomlinson and Austin Ekeler.
In fact, not only with, again, jumping ahead to All-O here, Austin Ekeler, when we moved him over to All-O, he got bumped to top tier in the All-O.
Nice. We were just ahead of ourselves at the time.
Yeah. And apparently I just cut him here from the running back spot, but oh well.
Nobody's gonna see that. Oops. Yeah. And now, Alex, what are you doing?
Wide receivers, we have Keenan Allen, Lance Allworth, Wes Chandler, Malcolm Floyd, Vincent Jackson, Charlie Joyner, and Anthony Miller. Looking at this wide receiving core first off, outside of one name, we got perfectly fine games. No one that stands out. To give you an idea of how good the quarterbacks are with all those damn yards, they have to move the ball around to a lot of different options.
Oh yeah. And one of those options is Keenan Allen, our first name here on this list. Keenan Allen has had an incredible career thus far. Not having the injury plague 2022 season, unfortunately, but up until this point, he is near. He's pushing 10,000 yards receiving, has almost 50 TDs. I I don't know if he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's going to have a really good case once his career done, assuming that he keeps going his trajectory.
Well, an easy Hall of Famer here, Lance Allworth. From 62 to 70 with the Chargers, 7 Pro Bowls, 6 All-Teams, 87 yards per game receiving, 81 touchdowns, Hall of Fame career, easy number 1, easy top tier.
Yeah, easy. Wes Chandler, not a big name here. Pretty solid stats for what he was, but compared to some of the guys on the list, he is a bottom tier.
And another one there, a long tenure here. So we're going to give credit to that here with Malcolm Floyd. He had a nice career with them, 121 games, averaged 46 yards receiving per game, 34 touchdowns. Enjoyed watching you play. We're bottom tier.
Next up is Vincent Jackson. So when we think the name Vincent Jackson Chargers, I think of a really good top-end receiver, hell of a deep threat. I remember saying this in the video, too, at the time. I'm stunned at how low his stats are.
Because he's a boom or bust player.
Yeah. And 272 receptions for 4,700 yards, 37 TDs in 92 games. We did put him at mid-tier because he was a good hell of a boom or bust.
Charlie Joyner, another Hall of Famer here, but nowhere near Lance Allworth caliber. That's not an insult.
No.
56 yards per game, 47 touchdowns. He's mid-tier.
Absolutely. And finally, we end with Anthony Miller. Insert what I said about Wes Chandler and what you said about Malcolm Floyd. Good receiver. 4 Pro Bowls, which is really good, but bottom tier.
All right, so that puts Lance Allworth at 1, and we have 3 players fighting for 2 spots. You talked about Keenan Allen being, already on a potential Hall of Fame trajectory. Charlie Joyner being a Hall of Famer, and Vincent Jackson being a boomer bust. I think that makes up our mind there with Keenan Allen and Charlie Joyner joining.
Absolutely. So that means that our wide receiving core end up being Lance Allworth, Keenan Allen, and Charlie Joyner.
Just to repeat.
Yes. That might be good for my editing. That's why I did that.
For tight end. Sorry, Dave Sorry, we have Antonio Gates and Kellen Winslow battling it out here. If Antonio Gates is the best tight end ever, Kellen Winslow is number 3. You have two right now that could potentially come over that.
Hold on. I hear an echo. That was weird. It's gone. Oh, kind of there. I hear myself. That's the problem. Okay. I think we're good. That was weird.
We have
Kellen
current that could, battle for some top spots.
Yeah.
I think Kellen Winslow is probably the 3rd best tight end to ever play the game.
It's hard to say. Another guy that revolutionized the position because the tight end wasn't really a flashy receiving position pre-Kellen Winslow, and he just said, "Oh yeah, fuck you," and helped revolutionize it. It still really wouldn't take a while until after he retired until the tight end position became what we know as with Gates and Gonzalez and Travis Kelsey's of the world and George Kittle's. But Kellen Winslow was really the first. But as you mentioned, Antonio Gates.
Which is hard when you have Kellen Winslow, the third best tight end of all time. And we have put some shit tight ends on some teams.
God,
Commanders, you fuck nuts. That team that we just did, we had to put some...
Jerry Smith.
Yeah, we put him on, and Kellen Winslow's not making it.
And Jerry Smith wasn't even...
Fair. Sorry, Kellen. You're not making it. It's Antonio Gates.
And just for the record, could you imagine? I mean, Jerry Smith wasn't even the worst tight end we picked out of these groups. Because I remember the Buffalo Bills had some just absolute shit tight end.
Is there a team we left that blank on?
I don't think we ever did. I don't remember offhand, but I don't think we ever left it blank.
Oh.
Which is probably a shame.
Yeah.
Maybe Houston. But could you imagine if we would combine the wide receiver and tight end position, which probably should what we end up doing, and trying to pick 5 of those? I mean, Charlie Joyner doesn't make that team.
Oh no. Well, Keenan Allen doesn't come in too. I'd probably even argue Lance Allworth doesn't make it number 2.
Right. Well, yeah.
I'd have Gates, Winslow, Lance Allworth in that order if we put them together as one.
Well, if we put them together, we end up taking 4 for the position. So.
It's still Lance Allworth goes from the number 1 wide receiver
to
number 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, it's hard to argue. You can't argue that because them two.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the tight end position has good players.
So as we go off onto the all-oh now, we're looking for 4 players between Andre Coleman, Chris Dielman, Speedy Duncan, Ron Mix, Darren Sproles, Russ Washington, Dan Fouts, Austin Eckler, Vincent Jackson, and Kellen Winslow. Here is where it gets really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because Austin Eckler is no longer part of the all-oh. It's Melvin Gordon that took his spot.
Melvin Gordon instead of Eckler. We gave Eckler a bump up. Would you give Melvin Gordon the same bump up at this point?
No.
I would not. Now we have a change in the team.
Yes.
Because, okay, I'm going to save some time here. We have Andre Coleman, good return man, mid-tier. Chris Dielman, good lineman. He's going to be a bottom tier, though. Speedy Duncan, he's got a cool name, bottom tier. Ron Mix, are you fucking kidding? This Ron Mix, he's top tier. Darren Sproles, one of the best return men ever, top tier. Russ Washington, top tier on the line. Dan Fouts is on here. We're keeping him at top tier. Melvin Gordon is staying at a mid-tier. Vincent Jackson, currently at a mid-tier. Do we give him a bump up for his boom potential?
We did at the time, but I feel like...
agree to that still.
Yep.
So, our top 3, Kellen Winslow's making it. Duh.
Boom.
Ron Mix is making it.
Boom.
Duh. Dan Fouts is making it.
Boom.
Duh. Darren Sproles, Vincent Jackson, Russ Washington, Melvin Gordon.
Well, Gordon's out because we're not even bumping them up. And that's the problem. So, I don't want to make this a habit of changing the team as much as we can, but...
I think we made the right call here, though.
But no, we did. I mean, we had to. We really didn't have much of a choice. The next name eliminated, I think, is pretty easy for me. I like Vincent Jackson, but compared to Sproles and Washington, I just think that there's a gap there. I'd like to see more stats from Jackson before I would put him in that same tier, because Sproles by himself just wasn't a return man. He was also a hell of an offensive player.
What do you know who just made the team then?
Darren Sproles?
Darren Sproles, because I had it between Vincent Jackson and Darren Sproles. So you're eliminating Jackson. I was eliminating Russ Washington. So we don't even have to argue between our second and who we'd have second and first.
Nope.
Darren Sproles. just made the all-time team.
Nice.
So we still have a halfback in that spot,
We do.
just for a different reason.
That's true. And still first contribution for offenses, so it works out.
Yeah.
But that does mean our alt O ends up being Kellen Winslow, Ron Mix, Dan Faust, and Darren Sproles. One of these things isn't like the others.
Okay, so as we come over here and look at our offensive lineup, we have Phillip Rivers, LaDainian Tomlinson, Austin Eckler, Lance Allworth, Antonio Gates, Keenan Allen, Charlie Joyner, Antonio Cromartie, Eric Weddle, Rodney Harrison, and Kenny Grant. What the? You don't remember this fuck up, dude?
Yes, I do. I just said, like, wait, why? Oh, it was the one where I had to redo the sheets, and I fucked it all up.
Yeah. So in this, we currently have Kellen Winslow and Ron Mix playing defensive line. One of those would be all right. And then I'm missing a linebacker and missing a defensive back. We're just not filling those positions.
Oh man, yeah. Before I add this video months and months down the road, I need to fix that because.
Well, we already recorded the audio with the fuck up. Let's move on to the defensive side.
Yeah. For sure. We are starting with.
All right, do we know it's fucked up? Yeah. Could we fix this right now easily? Yeah. Are we going to? No.
No. Because, God damn it, Kellen Winslow on the defensive line is completely factual. Oh, man. Well, speaking of defensive line, it's time to move over to the defensive line. Once again, we're taking 2 of these following 7 players of Joey Bosa, Fred Dean, Earl Faison, Melvin Ingram, Gary Johnson, Ernie Ladd, and Leslie O'Neal.
Jerry. I don't even know where I got Jerry from.
Jerry
Josa. Still playing with the Chargers. Fantastic career. He's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He's a top tier.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, another, speaking of Hall of Famers, Fred Dean, 75 to 81, 52 sacks in 84 games, 4 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros. A hell of a fucking lineman, top tier.
It's going to be hard leaving him off of our punt returner spot on the elbow. Top tier. Earl Faison, middle tier guy. He's got some nice accolades, but not a name that I recognize too well.
Agreed. Next up, Melvin Ingram, 9 years, 3 Pro Bowls. I would have thought sacks were higher. It felt like he was a bit of a game wrecker, but the stats just aren't quite there to bump him up in that top tier. He's a mid tier.
Gary Johnson, looking very similar to Earl Faison, and if you doubled Earl Faison's games played. With the one odd standout there, Earl Faison had 5 picks.
Yeah, from the defensive line position.
What a freak! He was like Julius Peppers before Julius Peppers knew Julius Peppers. But yeah, Gary Johnson is still going to be a mid tier. Again, the stats they're eerily similar.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Next up is Ernie Ladd. Ernie Ladd, only 5 seasons in the land of the Charger. 4 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros. With that kind of line, it seems hard to make him a bottom tier. Just did not have the tenure.
Well, he played 70 games, but it's the sack count, and we didn't have anything else to go off of. And again, I don't know the name that well. I know the name, just not that well.
Yeah, not in the all-time territory.
And not when we're talking Leslie O'Neal with his 105 fucking sacks in 133 games, 600 tackles, record in both the running and passing game. Fuck you, Leslie O'Neal. top tier, first name on up top.
Yeah, another guy that undervalued in terms of all-time lore, just in general, 105 plus sacks, not a Hall of Famer.
Really, is he not? Like, if
No, I'm saying,
I know he's not technically, but if we were being realistic, he's a Hall of Fame.
no, that's where I was saying. I was saying the fact that I was saying as if I was saying that fact he's not a Hall of Famer is a shame because I think he has a very strong case. I think once you hit 100 sacks, you have a case. But he saves a game record. But yeah, easy number one. If we were doing this now, I don't know if I would have went with our number two, but I'm still comfortable with him being number two with Joey Bosa over Fred Dean.
All right, and that's where we're at. Linebacking core. Who are we looking at here?
Frank Butcomb, Emil Karras, Woodrow Lowe, Sean Merriman, Sean Phillips, and Junior Seau.
All right, what do you got on Butcomb?
Butcomb here played for 6 seasons in the 60s, 3 Pro Bowls, 84 games. Not a lot of count stats, not a name I really know, unfortunately. He is a bottom tier.
Next name up there is Emil. Emil Tunnell is a player that I am just now starting to become familiar with. He's jumped up and he has taken over my number one defensive back of all time. The guy is crazy. Emil Tunnell, top tier.
Well, that's great, and that's going to be in the video that I edit next week. But could you tell us about Emil Karras?
Oh, wait, who are we looking at? Oh, no, I can't. Bottom tier.
Oh, man. Next up, a name that I struggle saying sometimes, Woodrow Lowe. Played for 11 seasons from 76 to 86, 164 games, 26 sacks from the linebacker spot, not bad, 21 interceptions, that's good, 4 defensive touchdowns, was all over the field, bunch of tackles that weren't counted, but he was a tackling machine. He was a good mid-tier.
Yeah. We got some solid top tiers coming up, including Sean Merriman. You got a nice little thing that you remember about him, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Maurice Jones-Drew. Sean Merriman comes in, looks like a freehold. Maurice Jones-Drew just lights him up, destroys him. Oh, one of my favorite plays.
4'10" of him.
One of my favorite blocks, maybe one of my favorite plays ever to watch back on. It's hard to find, unfortunately, but oh man, I love that play. And Sean Merriman never really was the same after that. Actually, that was kind of like his kind of the turning point for him a bit. But
well, he had 44 sacks in 60 games, 8 forced fumbles there, 3-time Pro Bowler, first team to go with that. He's a top tier.
Yeah, when he was good, and he had a very short burst of peak, but his peak was up there with anybody in the league. Sean Phillips doesn't have the peak that Sean Merriman had, but had a far longer career and was a stud doing it. 69 and a half sacks, 136 games, only 1 Pro Bowl. That's a shame. 6 picks, 3 defensive touchdowns, 20 forced fumbles. The dude was a beast on the outside as well. Hell of a 1-2 combo with Sean Merriman for a couple of years.
Well, we already talked about Junior Seau. He's a top tier Hall of Famer. He's the number 1 spot on here. Now let's take a look at Sean Phillips and Sean Merriman. Sean and Sean. You said a much longer tenure for Sean Phillips. He started 1 year earlier, played 2 years longer. That's 3 years. How many games would that be?
That is 32, 48 extra games.
So that takes Sean Merriman to 108. Where are those other 30 games that Sean Phillips played?
Injuries.
Oh, okay. So that makes Sean Phillips an easy number 2 over Sean Merriman, even though Sean Merriman had that peak that was just insane that Sean Phillips never had. That consistency and consistently damn good.
Absolutely.
What's him at number 2?
Can't agree more. Which means Junior Seau, Sean Phillips, and Sean Merriman are our linebackers.
And off to defensive back, we have. I almost read them in a strange order because I'm looking at our actual picks. We have Gilbert. We. That reminds me, like reading that reminds me of Gilbert from the W. You're gonna have to change that photo. Put Gilbert.
Oh my god.
Gilbert.
Yep.
Antonio Cromartie, Kenny Graham, Old Penis Harris, Rodney Harrison, Charlie McNeil, and Eric Weddle.
Well, speaking of Gilbert, Gilbert playing for 10 years, from 83 to 92, two-time Pro Bowler, 42 interceptions. That's pretty damn good. A solid mid-tier.
Antonio Cromartie, loved Antonio Cromartie. He set off anything. We had as many Cromarties on our team just because of Antonio Cromartie. It didn't matter if they were a Rogers Cromartie. We're like, oh, nope, he's got a Cromartie. He's going on our team in our Maddens. We had as many Cromarties on our team as Antonio Cromartie has children in real life.
That's true. And you know what? Just like Antonio Cromartie with his real kids, we couldn't name all of ours.
Yeah, not even close. So, yeah, he's getting a big boost up here. He's top tier.
Absolutely. Next up, Kenny Graham, 64 to 69, five-time Pro Bowler and first-team All-Pro, 25 picks in 82 games with 5 defensive touchdowns. Absolute beast back there, playmaker, mid-tier.
And Dickie Harris from 60 to 65, 29 interceptions is damn good in 76 games. 5 TDs, mid-tier for you, buddy.
Nice. Next up, one of the hardest hitters the NFL's ever seen, Rodney Harrison. Played for 9 years in the 90s. Was the second banana to Junior Seau on that defense. I say that in a respectful way, not a disrespectful way, because he was such a good safety. 26 picks, 123 games, 21 and a half sacks from the safety spot. He could blitz, and 2 touchdowns. Easy top tier, and another surprisingly not Hall of Famer.
Okay, and then the next name on here is Charlie McNeil from 60 to 64, had 19 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Good old Charlie McNeil.
That wasn't sarcasm at all.
Out here.
And finally, we'll end with Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle playing for 9 years, 3 Pro Bowls, 1 first-team All-Pro. A really good coverage safety, just over a good safety. Now, why I remember him more than anything is you used to despise him.
I did for the longest time.
I never understood that. Like, this dude's really good. Why do you hate him? And then you've come around over the years.
I took a hard 180.
Yeah, and I enjoyed his completely mercenary Super Bowl win last year with the Rams, where he didn't play a single regular season game. Like, they call him up in mid-playoffs. Hey, you want to play? Yeah, I'll play. Let's win a Super Bowl. Eric Weddle, top tier.
So now we have 3 top-tier players, so they're going up. The number 1 spot is going to Antonio Cromartie. Look at that interception there. And if you don't want to look at that interception, you remember that field goal he returned for a touchdown for like 180 yards. Bam, high five, buddy, number 1.
Antonio Cromartie made Peyton Manning look silly in his prime. That's all I'm going to say. Number 2 spot. Number 2 and number 3 is interesting. I would assume that we might have had it reversed, but with how good Eric Weddle was, we ended up going with Eric Weddle at 2 and Rodney Harrison at 3. That's a controversial one.
I don't know how controversial it is. It would have been controversial with me if you asked me in 2012. I would have been like, no, fuck you. Fuck you, it's Rodney Harrison. What the fuck are we talking about Eric Weddle? I like Eric Weddle too. And then Well, Gilbert's not making it. Then we got some dick. Are you kidding? Not even in the same ballpark. Kenny Graham is. I mean, he's borderline top tier anyway. He's an easy pick for that 4 spot.
Yep, absolutely. So just for editing purposes. So our defensive backs are Antonio Cromartie, Eric Weddle, Rodney Harrison, and Kenny Graham. Kenny G.
And now off to the Alt D. We're going to be putting up Fred Dean and Gary Johnson. And Gilbert just showing up because that's what Gilbert does.
Just always shows up.
Welcome there. We got your picture up there again. That's a nice picture there, Gilbert. But Fred Dean and Gary Johnson making the team. What's that do for our defensive lineup?
Well, with our we have Kellen Winslow and Ron Mix on the defensive line, as we mentioned earlier. Fred Dean and Gary Johnson over there, Alt D. Leslie O'Neal and Joey Bosa at linebacker somehow. Junior Seau, Sean Phillips, and Sean Merriman at defensive back. We have 2 random spots done. I don't even know anymore. Our real picks are Leslie O'Neal and Joey Bosa at defensive line. Linebackers Seau, Sean Phillips, and Sean Merriman. DBs Antonio Cromartie, Eric Weddle, Rodney Harrison, and Kenny G, Kenny Graham, and Fred Dean and Gary Johnson for the alt.
And then for our actual offensive lineup, we have Kellen Winslow, Ron Mix, Dan Fouts, and Darren Sproles pulling up bench duty here with Phillip Rivers, LT, and Austin Eckler in the backfield. Out wide, we have Charlie Joyner, Lance Allworth, Keenan Allen in no particular order, and tight end, the best all-time, Antonio.
This team, when we tiered this team off, was a fun one to do. They are probably by far the highest overall team for a team that never won an NFL championship or at least a Super Bowl championship. But they had a high ranking. Oh, their D was ranked lower than I expected them to be.
Their offense came in at 4th overall, and looking at that, I'm like, man, 4th, really? That low? That again, nobody at wide receiver.
Yeah, compared to what we had our top 3 as.
Yeah, obviously.
And we're not spoiling that one because we have a video in 12 months. By the way, do you still have those videos? I think you recorded them.
I have them?
I hope so.
Well, shit. Maybe. Oh.
I don't want to do it again.
The defense, this puts them smack dab in the middle. Well, there is no exact middle. They're on the bottom side of that.
Yeah. Which weighs their team down a bit and keeps them from...
Yeah, so as a team overall, they finish as an above-average team at 9th overall.
Yeah. All right, that has been our San Diego Chargers all-time team part 2. Thanks for joining us. I've been Christopher. That has been Jay from what I've been told in my earpiece. Until next time.
Part 2.